117th Contact, Wednesday, November 29, 1978, 3:12 p.m., pages 302, 330. Patar says, as you see, we all came here to speak with you, and please, don't set off so angrily again, like you did on last Saturday, when my daughter came to you. Indeed, we cannot forbid you if you want to do it anyway, but I would like to ask you not to do so. We understand very well that you are very angry, but you should also try in this whole undertaking to understand us, we who also don't have endless time to deal exclusively with the adversities that are still always continuing in your group and leading everything to destruction. For about a year, it has been impossible for us to assign new and very important tasks to your group because internal group intrigues prevented this. Constant disagreements, quarrels, egoism, jealousy and lies as well as many other emotional things created a climate that had to lead everything to destruction. Besides these things, however, still also recklessness, maliciousness, and malice endanger everything. So it has also remained invariable to this day that by a certain party, internal group concerns are still carried outward, which really should remain only internal group knowledge. That group member, who so far hasn't stopped and refrained from this doing bordering on betrayal, should now decide whether he will continue to indulge in this doing or completely strive, at last, only for the purpose of the group and its task, without maintaining further contacts with group members who have gone away, who are always informed by this group member about the state of the group concerns, etc. I still want to conceal the name in my statement, so that renewed disputes won't arise as a result of the naming and so that the group member concerned won't be attacked because of that. In this regard, I would also like to ask you not to mention the name for the time being, just as you have done this so far. But should the group member concerned not immediately change in his mentality, then you may no longer be silent about it and have to report it to the group, upon which an exclusion from the group is then to be decided and put into effect for the member concerned. Billy says, actually, I am glad that all of you have come here, Patar, but on the other hand, it is quite damn unpleasant for me. After your speech, it also seems that you now still want to continue again, even though I had an argument with Quetzal a month ago and told him that he should go to hell. Why? You may, indeed, know this. It is, in fact, the same reason why I told Semyaza the same thing on last Saturday. And on account of the group member concerned, I would like to say that all talking probably won't help anything because all reproaches using your objections mentioned are categorically denied, even though Quetzal has regularly been making very precise analyses for many months and even already for 2 years, which prove that everything really is as Quetzal said to me. The group member denies all this, however, at all costs, which is why I have become tired of speaking further with him about it. Patar says these things are known to me, and your explanation also leads me right to the incidents with my daughter on last Saturday and with Quetzal and you a month ago, since he made reproaches to you regarding your neglect of duty. He is only here today because we asked him, for he wouldn't have gotten in touch with you again on his own initiative. Billy says I also wouldn't have done that from my side. Patar says we know that. It is, however, also very well known to us that you both respect each other very much, despite the unpleasant incident, and that you are uncommonly good friends and don't preserve any improper thoughts of one another, as this is also the case between you and my daughter. Quetzal and you, however, and this is very strange, you both have a haughtiness in yourselves, which causes that you are able to act illogically against your better knowledge. And even though you show each other very much respect, you throw reproaches at each other, which hit very hard and cause a peculiar and illogical defensiveness, which is grounded in a peculiar pride. An attempt at an analysis of this gave me the extremely interesting solution that this pride has formed in you both out of a hard drive for self-preservation, which goes far beyond a normal human will for self-preservation. This super-will, if I may so designate it, makes you demand very much more of yourselves and then also enforce less than what your powers will permit you or would hold in themselves. So it happens that you, once you have exhausted your last power reserves, witness new power through your consciousness in some way that is unknown to me, which then pushes you both forward like a mechanical device, during which it seems that your power substance will be infinite. In this moment, you always exceed yourself and ignore all physical laws. Your entire body and all systems suddenly begin to function like a machine, by what means it then acts like a robot, which stubbornly and inexorably pursues and also reaches its goal according to a determined programming. This, which I must admit, I have never experienced with human life forms in this manner, and everything first became clear to me by the fact that you two got in each other's hair a month ago, if I may so say it, and because of that, Quetzal then came to me in the lack of understanding of these things, after which I busied myself with him for 3 weeks and found out the core of things. Truly, you both probably represent two cases that don't find their equals so easily. In your peculiar natures, you two see many things from your own perspectives that are only valid for yourselves, but these are, interestingly enough, so mutually alike for you both that they are absolutely identical according to my computer analyses and don't show the slightest difference. So it seems as if you are, in this respect, the most absolute twins that there can be at all. But now, this equality leads to the fact that you judge each other exactly according to the estimation of an achievement, as this is true for you specifically and personally, without regard to any possible illnesses, etc. that are germinating or that have unfolded in you, which must automatically act on everything in an impairing manner. On your part, you have now brought your entire nervous system and some other things in your body to rebellion, as this is also the case with Quetzal, who, just like you, is ruined slowly and over a long time by the grievances in your group, but unfortunately, we didn't notice this because Quetzal concealed his condition from us, loyal to your common characteristic, that you both must continue to strive for a set goal until the very end, when your last powers have already left you. So you two confronted each other a month ago in a mutual, ruined condition and could no longer understand yourselves because you both came from exactly the same perspectives, namely from the perspective of the pride animating you and steadily propelling you, which doesn't let you two admit that even your truly inhuman strengths had reached their limits once and had even reached these at the same time. So it could only arise that you both clashed in that way, which was the case. At the same time, it was just puzzling to me that you both, nevertheless, testified the greatest of all esteem and all respect for one another, but this then ultimately pointed me in the right direction. Other human life forms would have generated a rage in themselves against each other, which wasn't the case with you, however. In you two, there was, despite the incident that would have generated very malicious enmity among two other human beings, respect and the highest esteem for one another, and your rage was solely due to your power exhaustion and the things that had led to it. Because of that, however, you both acted illogically and saw all things in yourselves as worse and more hopeless than they are in truth. Already months ago, we granted to the group members that we still want to set a 6-month time period, which already ends in the month of March, 1979. But we also want to keep to this time, as it was discussed. If it should turn out by then, however, that the necessary changes haven't arrived, then we would have to recognize everything as useless and break off all further contacts associated with the task of us all. Of course, it was very unpleasant that Quetzal had to find extremely unpleasant things through his extremely precise analyses of each group member over a daily 24-hour period. But even though these analyses have yielded very poor and partially even frightening results, we don't want to break our promise and will still keep the granted time of 6 months, which expires in the month of March of next year. For your part, you, too, should, despite your destroyed nervous system, keep this in mind and be helpful to us in this. Sure, for a whole month now, you have set yourself on the fact that you would not continue, so your thoughts are dominated by this. But what might not be possible for any other human being apart from you and Quetzal, you can achieve, if you only want. You are able to destroy your entire dominating picture built by you within a fraction of a second and to continue again where you left off a month ago. Do you want to do that? Billy says, for that, I need some time to reflect. I first have to plow through your long speech once again. Patar says you should have as much time as you need for it. Billy says, okay, give me half a minute, this time should suffice. Patar says that is very little, you can. Semyaza says, excuse me, father, but his thinking is different than ours. You may be assured that when he says 30 seconds, this time is enough for him. Quetzal says that is of correctness. Patar says you must, indeed, know that very well, Quetzal. So let it be done. Billy says, okay, Patar, just leave it. Well, I must accept what you have said, for it all sounds very logical. Fine, I will continue on, until you yourselves have decided in March of next year. I believe that this should be fair. Semyaza says, sure, we didn't expect it differently from you, and I wasn't mistaken in you, despite your age, when you went away so abruptly on last Saturday. Indeed, I was sad, but I knew that everything would be good again. I simply couldn't be deceived in you. But on the other hand, we are all too interconnected with one another for us not to be able to clarify such disagreements in the long run. Therefore, I also gave myself no worries, even though everything lasted rather long because Father first wanted to clarify things. Billy says, thank you, girl, you are very dear. And you, Quetzal, my son, you know that it suits me. Quetzal says it shouldn't be like that, my friend. We understand ourselves that way. Billy says, I think so. Thank you. Patar says, then this case should have taken care of itself. You two are, indeed, special human beings, which I must say. Two people other than you would have become malicious to each other and possibly enemies. But this doesn't change the fact that Quetzal was of complete correctness with his statements regarding the individual group members and the cited grievances. The analyses have, in fact, yielded this, and indeed, over a longer period of time, according to which no excuses at all can be given that the analyses were made at the moment of a psychological or physical low, etc., as this is stated among the group members as a continuous excuse, as I know very well. So this means that our instruction shall apply, that we will only watch during the promised and therefore granted time and will then break off any contacts in the sense of the mission if until then, everything hasn't fundamentally turned to the good and better in the forms that are given by the established rules of regulation, etc. This is already irrevocable and final. Until that point in time, however, we want to continue working and to fulfill our duty in the conventional framework. Should it turn out, however, by the month of March, 1979, that the necessary changes haven't arrived in the various group members through their own efforts, then everything else relating to this would be pointless and would bring no further successes, which would have to lead to a final abort of all undertakings. In this regard, it is very deplorable in general, how few efforts have been made by the individuals to bring about the necessary changes in themselves, though such a change in a reason-gifted human being of Earth is only a matter of very short time but not of years. Billy says that is also my view. Around 2 years have now passed, and still, practically nothing has been achieved, as I see things. In my view, a human being needs, however, no more than 2 months for such a change. But continuously, ones want to talk their way out of this and make excuses that they are just misguided human beings of Earth and that it can't be expected that they achieve such a change in a short time. This view, which I find rather dumb and egoistic, I cannot represent, and I find that it should be possible for even only a halfway reasonable human being to bring about the suitable change and mentality in himself within 2 months, if one only wants this. Patar says that is of very exact correctness, as I must grant you. In this direction, I have pursued my studies and, as a result, found that the average human being of Earth requires an average time of 58 days to bring such a developmental change and change in mentality in himself to resounding success. But human beings of Earth with a knowledge of that state, as the group members exhibited, only require a maximum time of 36 days. But at the same time, the will is authoritative, as you correctly said. But this is exactly what isn't addressed at all in the individual group members because they don't try to develop such in themselves. The result of our analyses showed that as a rule, all proposals, advice, and findings are accepted purely superficially and only verbally, while in the interior, however, nothing at all is thought toward a change. In their interiors, various group members are not at all willing to undergo a change because they just want to continue living in their old lifestyle. At the same time, very bad and untrue excuses appear, like, for example, that one must first think things over and sort things out in one's own mind, before one can come to a more binding arrangement, etc. But truthfully, these are only dishonest excuses from a wide variety of worthless reasons. These cannot find any validity, however, because they do not correspond to the truth. This is also the reason that various group members for whom it would be urgently necessary are not willing to be resident in the center or in the immediate vicinity, so that they could stay and be active in the center in a sufficient measure. Various ones are, evidently, still not clear to themselves about the fact that they can't simply stay away in the present time from all obligations in the center and all obligations and then desire, nevertheless, to be a beneficiary in the next life as another person. It is an erroneous assumption that solely the storage of the fluidal forces would suffice, so that they could pleasurably sit in the center in the later life. Oh no. It still isn't so far that the mentality storage automatically runs with each meditation exercise. This, however, determines whether an incarnation in the center will be acceptable. But if this mentality isn't moderate enough in all necessary concerns, then by the control disk, which was brought into position particularly for the Saha center, the entire storage becomes completely eliminated for the person concerned upon his or her death. This prevents that unworthy group members can unjustifiably find a warm camp in which they intend to sunbathe at later times. We have been forced to this step by the dishonorable and partially malicious behavior of various group members. This ensures that treacherous elements aren't able to draw any benefit out of everything and that all their villainous efforts will be useless. For this reason, we will also designate a new place for you in some time, where you shall place the centerpiece of the Saha center, so that no one will know where it is anymore, except those who stand in absolute loyalty to the task and to all interests associated with it. As soon as Quetzal has created the technical possibilities so that the necessary vibrations and radiations can be transferred invisibly from the Saha center to the new location of the centerpiece, you will have to make the transfer. This is a further safety precaution so that a destruction of the same cannot take place and any manipulations in it become impossible thereby, since it is, after all, of very great importance that it survives several centuries, even millennia. The last 2 years have attested to us that such an action is absolutely of necessity, since constant betrayal is practiced and many other things. So we are forced to take measures that will then also guarantee everything and guarantee a certain success when we ourselves can no longer exercise control over all things because our work on the earth will then be finished, namely when you depart from this life and everything will solely be the concerns of the human beings of earth, who will then shape their lives, their future, and the world and their development of consciousness by themselves from the material supplied to them. We ourselves will then only resume and newly appear once you attend to your tasks again in the future time as a new person, but otherwise we will wrap ourselves in silence and invisibility. Many things have changed our basic plans, unfortunately, because the destructive and irresponsible conduct of the group members messed up and partially even destroyed our entire task. And since that is so, the resolution is also very obvious. that in the month of March, everything must finally be broken off if the necessary changes in the mentality and everything else haven't arrived. But still, this time hasn't come, and we fulfill our duty loyal to our promise, done this so far. But should the group member concerned not immediately change in his mentality, then you may no longer be silent about it and have to report it to the group, upon which an exclusion from the group is then to be decided and put into effect for the member concerned. Billy says, actually, I am glad that all of you have come here, Pata, but on the other hand, it is quite damn unpleasant for me. After your speech, it also seems that you now still want to continue again, even though I had an argument with Quetzal a month ago and told him that he should go to hell. Why? You may, indeed, know this. It is, in fact, the same reason why I told 117th Contact, Wednesday, November 29, 1978, 3:12 p.m., pages 302, 330. Pata says, as you see, we all came here to speak with you, and please, don't set off so angrily again, like you did on last Saturday, when my daughter came to you. Indeed, we cannot forbid you if you want to do it anyway, but I would like to ask you not to do so. We understand very well that you are very angry, but you should also try in this whole undertaking to understand us, we who also don't have endless time to deal exclusively with the adversities that are still always continuous. Are the same thing on last Saturday. And on account of the group member concerned, I would like to say that all talking probably won't help anything, because all reproaches using your objections mentioned are categorically denied, even though Quetzal has regularly been making very precise analyses for many months and even already for 2 years, which prove that everything really is as Quetzal said to me. The group member denies all this, however, at all costs, which is why I have become tired of speaking further with him about it. Pata says these things are known to me, and your explanation also leads me right to the incidents with my daughter on last Saturday and with Quet member, who so far hasn't stopped and refrained from this doing bordering on betrayal, should now decide whether he will continue to indulge in this doing or completely strive, at last, only for the purpose of the group and its task, without maintaining further contacts with group members who have gone away, who are always informed by this group member about the state of the group concerns, etc. I still want to conceal the name in my statement, so that renewed disputes won't arise as a result of the naming and so that the group member concerned won't be attacked because of that. In this regard, I would also like to ask you not to mention the name for the time being, just as you have been in your group and leading everything to destruction. For about a year, it has been impossible for us to assign new and very important tasks to your group because internal group intrigues prevented this. Constant disagreements, quarrels, egoism, jealousy and lies as well as many other emotional things created a climate that had to lead everything to destruction. Besides these things, however, still also recklessness, maliciousness, and malice endanger everything. So it has also remained invariable to this day that by a certain party, internal group concerns are still carried outward, which really should remain only internal group knowledge. That group